next up is our speaker, Ivy. So please come forward to the stage.
So good morning, everyone. So thank you so much for the organizers and for to all the people who is behind this International Ecology School 2024. Thank you so much. So from Central Mindanao University Institute of Biological Sciences, and on behalf of my co-researchers, I am Ivy Adlaon, and I am very honored to present our research entitled "From Fields to Plates: A Quantitative Study on Talaanding Food Ethnobotany." So, to begin, the Philippines is a home to approximately 10,000 species of plants and 110 ethno-linguistic groups. And the Philippines is divided into three major landmasses. We have the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And this is with these 110 ethno-linguistic groups and this very large number of species of floral species, it has become one of the main reasons why the Philippines has become one of the most important sites for ethnobotanical studies in Asian region. So out of this 110 ethno-linguistic groups, we have 3% of it can be found or inhabits in Visayas, and 34% inhabits Luzon, and the remaining and the largest population of indigenous groups can be found in Mindanao, which is 63% out of 100 major indigenous groups in the Philippines. And that will be my main focus of these studies. So in Mindanao, we have this what called the province of Bukidnon. And in the province of Bukidnon, we have the city of Valencia, in which this Talaanding indigenous group can be found. So they are certified and accredited as a people's organization. And what they were called as the Bayawan Lokday Lungayan Pindunay Sandako Tribal Association Incorporation. And this is their tribal house. So they can be found in Valencia City, Bukidnon. They're called the Talaanding Indigenous Group. And so this Talaanding Indigenous Group is just one of the many indigenous groups in the Philippines that consumes wild plants. So these wild edible plants play a very important role in the life of indigenous groups. In fact, they use it as an alternative for rice or any edible plants or any marketable plants or foods. So the importance on consumption of vegetables and fruits was recognized by the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, in 2016. In fact, they have mentioned that there is, they acknowledge the adverse effect of the inadequate consumption of vegetables and fruits. And so this is why these wild edible plants, we're studying the wild edible plants in a particular area, especially with indigenous people on it, is very important. Now again, we would sometimes ask ourselves, what is the main problem? Why do we have to study the ethnobotanical component of a particular area? So, as you can see, there has been a lot of researches on edible landscaping in the Philippines and the association of plants and the culture, as well as the roles of plants in agriculture and in cultural diversity. However, in Bukidnon, or in the city of Valencia, in Bukidnon, the Philippines, indigenous and local knowledge system on food ethnobotany of the Talaanding indigenous group remain under study. Regardless of the fact that this indigenous and local knowledge system is one of the many foundations of a science-based research, especially on food. So with that, we have these goals in our studies. So the first is to document the food ethnobotany of Talaan Indigenous Group and analyze the ethnobotanical index volume and evaluate how these plants are utilized by the Talaan Indigenous Group. So how they use these plants in order for them to survive in the in being a marginalized or being in a remote area. So this is the outline of my method. So of course, first we have acquired the wildlife relinquished permit for us to be allowed to collect plant species, and also we have secured the necessary letters and permits also for the prior form consent from the chieftain of the area. And so as you can see the map, this is the map of Valencia City, and the one that is encircled over there is the study sites, which is the Barangay Lingayon. And during the data collection, before we conducted our research, of course, we have to pay respect to the tribal community. So we had a ritual, and then we do the semi-structured interview and conducted a walking interview also because the local or the respondents in our study only gave us the local name of the plant. So we have to do a walking interview so that they can point out which plant are they referring, and so we can validate the scientific names of the plants. And then we use a wet method to preserve the plants for herbarium, and then we use the COS Digital Flora of the Philippines to validate our the scientific names for the identification, and for further validation, we ask for assistance for the CMU Museum taxonomist, plant taxonomist. So the data collected was then categorized or put into the Excel file, and then we use the ethnobotany R using the program R Studio Analysis, and then use the data in Microsoft Word, and then the foul use categories we're done using Kennedy et al. 2010, in which there are 9 foul use categories. So for the result, we have in here that from out of the respondents, we have 58% of it are males and 21 are females. 42% are females. And then for the educational attainment, most of them, which is 45%, doesn't have any educational background, and only 29% have only gone to primary school, and then 24% are secondary, and only 2% has done tertiary education. Since the area is really remote, so they cannot go. Only a small portion of the population has gone to school. So most of them are their job or their occupation was they're farmers. So most of them really do rely on their wild edible plants. And so 26% are others, like they have their stores, and some of them are government workers also. So for the estimated monthly income, most of them has an income of $17 per month, and then like 26% of the respondents have this $102 to $104 per month income, and then their 22% has a $191 income. So that's why this result would explain why most of them rely on food ethnobotany. For the botanical diversity of food plants that was found in Barangay Lingayon, there were 89 species of food plants belonging to 16 genera and 43 botanical families. So as you can see, this is a really good indicator that most of them really has a large or has a very good knowledge on their food ethnobotany. So that is why this would really give us an idea that we have to do more research on what do we have on the field. And so for the quantitative analysis, as mentioned a while ago, we use the ethnobotany R, using RStudio. And so as we can see, we use the Kennedy et al. 2010, in which they categorize the food, they categorize this food into 9 categories. We have green leafy vegetables, other fruits, spices, white fruits, other vegetables, legumes, vitamin A-rich vegetables, vitamin A-rich fruits, and cereals. So as we can see here, the highest number of species, with 81 species, are categorized into green leafy vegetables. This is this considers also which part of the plant was used. So most of them are utilizes green leafy vegetables, and 74 are other fruits. So these fruits are fruits that are not vitamin A rich fruits. So 67 species they use it for spices and condiments, and 59 species were used, they consume it as white fruits, tubers, and 56 species are other vegetables. And these vegetables are vegetables that are not vitamin A, because we have also here a specific category for vitamin A rich vegetables. And 30 species are legumes, 20 species are vitamin A rich vegetables, 18 species are vitamin A rich fruits, and 10 species are cereals. And we can see here that only 10 species are cereals. So this can be explained on the topography of the area. It's really hard in the mountainous area to grow rice, right? So that is why there is only a little number of species that is categorized as cereals, and more on green leafy vegetables. And we can explain it more later when we see this one. So as what I mentioned a while ago, it is really difficult for them to grow rice, right? So they have to find another alternative on what to use, so they can survive their daily life. So they use based on their user report and use value, the highest would be the Epimenia batatas, which is a tuber. So they use this one as an alternative for rice, because it is rich in protein, energy, and carbohydrates. So, okay. So this one shows the collection size. So as we can see in here, home gardens have 29%. So most of their plants, most of their plants can be found in their home gardens, and 25.86% can be found in shared areas, and 25.7% can be found on farms, and 19.78% can be found in the forest. So this explains that most of them do not go to the forest anymore just to get their food, right? Maybe because they have their home gardens. And I think that is also one of the importance of the implementation of home gardens in their tribes. So because these home gardens are implemented. So also these collection sites should be considered as biocultural refugia, because this is where this biological diversity and cultural diversity meets, because this is just unique for this Talaatig indigenous group. So these are takeaways from this research. So first, indigenous community utilize food plants as direct resources for survival. Example for that is their home gardens. The second one is different collection sites of the indigenous group for food plants should be considered as a food biocultural refugia, since this is where the biological and biocultural diversity meets, and it gives their identity as the Talaatig indigenous group. And utilizing indigenous and local knowledge through documentation and evaluation of gastronomically important plants could help in achieving the zero hunger goal of the United Nations, or the UN SDG 2. So as what I have mentioned in here, this indigenous local knowledge system is very important, so that we can create a more scientifically available database based on this knowledge, indigenous knowledge. So what can we do? So we can conduct more studies concerning the value of indigenous local knowledge system. So we can create more researches for them, for this knowledge to not only stay in that place, but it should be should be available to in public. And also, this is what we have done so far. As a master's students of Central Mindanao University, we have spread awareness about the indigenous local knowledge system through communication, education, and public awareness. And I'm not just talking about the food ethnobotany, but as well as their biodiversity in general in that area. So we have been here I have here my classmates. These are the work of my classmates and mine also. So we have passed this one to the local government of Barangay Lingayon. So this one also, these are our works. So before I end my presentation, I want to end this one with this statement. So embracing indigenous local knowledge system in sustaining biodiversity revives our connection to ecosystem services and ensures a thriving future for our planet's resources. So thank you so much everyone for your attention.
Do you document medicinal plants? Medicinal for health, medicine.
Actually, my focus is this one because there is an overlapping between food plants and medicine because sometimes they consume these specific plants as medicine, but then this can also be categorized using the values category as a food plant itself. Let's say, for example, Nepenthes, they utilize Nepenthes in that area as something that is medicinal, but also at the same time, they use it as a wine. So, the water is in that.
But the nutritional value is different from medicine.
Yeah.
For food, it's just cure you some of your, uncomfortable body or whatever, or something cure your mind.
Yeah, it's a different two. The two are different, but it is overlapping also.
First of all, thank you. That was so interesting. Wonderful presentation. So I have a similar question. I'm curious. So, are you documenting in the database the medicinal uses of the plants? And the second part, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time. The second part is, how do the traditional people feel about their intellectual property knowledge of the uses being broadcast more widely? Is there an issue with that? How are they being respected?
Thank you so much for that. Actually, there is indigenous people in our country is very much protected, so it is very difficult for us to go in their areas and do research in their areas. But we have to. That's why we did a ritual a while ago. As I have presented, we did a ritual, and also we have this what we call prior informed consent. So we have to ask for consent for them. BIC. So if they will not allow us, or they won't give, or if they are not willing to participate, then we cannot force them on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation. So I'm not an expert in e-commerce like you guys, and we process their con, so I can't give you detailed information or explanations. So I really choose the next speaker.